In this video, I will be reacting to and analyzing the costumes in the 2016 film Jackie. We will be discussing the icon that is Jackie Kennedy, who by the way is one of my biggest style inspirations. I absolutely love her, as well as the film's interpretation of some of her most notable pieces of clothing and the mode of dress that characterized the early 1960s. On a quick side note, I just wanted to mention that I feel like the historical costuming community on YouTube is particularly dominated by the 18th and 19th centuries. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely love these periods. They're so beautiful in their own way. However, I do feel like there is a lack of 20th century historical dress content. I know there are definitely creators who make 1950s dresses and do vintage hair tutorials. I love those videos. I watch them all the time. However, I personally want to dive a little bit deeper into the educational aspects that surround 20th century historical dress, particularly mid-20th century dress. And that's why I started my YouTube channel. I've only uploaded 3 videos so far, but I have so many more planned and I'm really excited to get going. So go ahead and subscribe if that sounds like your cup of tea, and let's get on to the video.
Right off the bat, I want to bust some myths about 1960s dress. Most people envision 1960s dress as hippie and flower child styles, characterized by peasant blouses and miniskirts. However, these didn't gain mainstream adoption until the mid to late 1960s. There is a big difference between the early 60s and the late 60s, and hippie fashion was only a sub-style. Just think of how many different styles and trends there are today. Jackie was the pinnacle of adult fashion at the time. She purchased from the most prominent designers and always looked impeccable. Regular everyday people couldn't always adhere to her level of dress. Also, it is really important to remember that many people were still wearing their clothes from 10 years prior. Unlike today, it was frivolous to get rid of perfectly good clothing in order to follow trends. I mean, look at the people in your life. Is your mom still wearing clothing from the 1980s or 90s? Is your aunt still wearing her bell-bottom low-rise jeans from 2007? Exactly. Not everyone was dressed in the most current styles. Now, to give a little context, the film takes place the week after John F. Kennedy's assassination, which was an incredibly tragic day in American history, and by analyzing these pieces of clothing, I mean absolutely no disrespect. This took place in autumn of 1963, so we are looking at early 1960s dress. The costume designer for the film was Madeline Fontaine and has stated that they wanted the costumes to be as true to the period as possible. So looking at the first costume, we have Jackie's red wool boucle Dior dress she wore during her televised tour of the White House. The late 1950s and early 60s are almost indistinguishable at times. They are very similar. However, a style that definitely defined the early 60s and was partly popularized in the mainstream by Jackie herself were boxy suit skirts and dresses. The suit skirts Jackie wore inspired women around the world to adopt similar styles. Some notable designers who first created the style were Chanel and Givenchy. Boucle was incredibly popular in the 1960s. Coco Chanel actually popularized the fabric, as many of her suits were made out of it and still are. Boucle or buckled tweed is a type of fabric where the yarn is looped or curled. It is generally made out of wool but can be made out of poly too. If you look closely, you can tell that they used boucle on the costume in the film, which is such a great detail. They didn't have to do, but they did, and I love that. So these types of suits were almost always paired with gloves and matching accessories, like a matching pillbox hat. And the shoes and bag would generally match each other. This style was the embodiment of conservative femininity in the early 1960s. In the 1950s, women were also fond of suit skirts and dresses. However, they were generally much more fitted. As suits and dresses became boxier, women had more freedom of movement. Chanel's intention was to release women from the confining, often uncomfortable, pinched waist silhouette that was omnipresent in 1950s ladies' tailoring. This was in response to women becoming more active in civic life and choosing to follow careers. Buttons also became larger since plastic was becoming cheaper as the decades progressed. The 1960s loved large and in-charge buttons. Wide and stiff necklines became popular and were possible given the hold and structure wool gives to a garment. I think Madeline did a wonderful job recreating this garment. It is almost identical to the original, minus the fabric-covered buttons they used, which are still historically accurate for the period. I mean, of course, there will always be small differences when reconstructing garments. It's impossible to have a 100% identical version. Overall, I give this costume an A+. Madeline and her team did a great job. Next, we have the green evening gown Jackie wears during the concert scene where cellist Pablo Casals performed in the White House in November of 1961. Madeline did say she took the most creative liberty with this dress, so the original and the one in the film are not the same. In the film, the dress includes a rolled collar which transforms into a train. Collars that turned into capes or trains were super fashionable and elegant in the 1960s. The color is is spot on. This sort of pistachio or chartreuse green was all the rage at the time. The silhouette is very similar to this pink gown, so I suspect Madeline used that dress as inspiration to create the green dress. In the early 1960s, evening gowns transformed from the new look of the 1950s, aka gathered and very full skirts, to a slimmer silhouette. This dress is still an A-line dress, it's just without the fullness of the previous decade. I give this costume an A+. The dress doesn't have to be completely identical to the original to be historically accurate, and Madeline explicitly said her team took creative liberty with the dress, for which I think they did a great job. All the lines are perfect and it fits right in with the period. The third costume is the pink and navy Chanel suit with matching hat. It was first shown by Coco Chanel in her 1961 autumn-winter collection. The suit is double-breasted with 6 gold buttons and 4 square pockets, 2 on each side. The fabric was a lightweight wool boucle similar to the red dress. The color was actually raspberry, although most people think it was a strawberry pink. The suit in 1963 was estimated to cost $800 to $1,000, which in today's money is about $6,000 to $8,000. Talk about expensive. By the early 60s, the Chanel suit was in every upper-class woman's closet. It was a symbol of affluence, and frankly still is. It symbolized an independent and intelligent woman, and the color pink feminized it slightly. In an interview after the tragedy, Kennedy said that her husband had told her, "There's going to be all these rich Republican women at that lunch wearing mink coats and diamond bracelets, and you've got to look as marvelous as any of them. Be simple. Show these Texans what good taste really is." I love that quote. Like, you don't have to be ostentatious to have class. Jackie also wore the suit on a few prior occasions and mentioned that it was one of Jack's favorites. The pink suit will forever be embedded in America's historical consciousness. From Madeline's point of view, the most important outfit to get right was this costume. To authentically reimagine the suit, which by the way, all of the costumes were hand sewn in her workshop in France, which is just like, wow. What dedication to quality and historical accuracy. So Madeline and her team spent hours testing dyes, speaking with Chanel to track down the original buttons and label. That's just groundbreaking, honestly. Many productions over the years have recreated this iconic suit, yet no one has ever gone as far to get the actual buttons and label Chanel used to make the suit. It's just amazing. Like, all the points go to Madeline for pulling that off. I could only dream of making a reconstruction with that level of precision. She gets a double AAA+ for this costume. It is honestly the chef's kiss of dress reconstructions in film. The last costume we will examine is Jackie's black Givenchy skirt suit she wore for her husband's funeral. The suit is adorned with tassels and was worn with a pillbox hat and custom-made veil. Although mourning dress, which is characterized by wearing all black and sometimes a veil that covers the face, generally went out of fashion in the 1920s, that was not wholly true for Catholic women. To this day, devoted Catholics wear black veils that cover their faces during times of mourning. The Kennedys were notably the only Catholic family to enter the White House at this point in time. Actually, Joe Biden is the only other Catholic president. However, even if she wasn't Catholic, I believe this response from a first lady would have been entirely appropriate for the time. Jackie said she wanted a veil that was sheer enough so people could still see her. Jackie actually wore this suit on previous occasions, like at the funeral for Eleanor Roosevelt. She also wore the suit after the funeral when she departed the White House for the final time on December 5th, 1963. I give Madeline another A+ for this one. The costume is spot on, similar to the original. Overall, this film did so well in terms of historical accuracy and staying true to the original outfits Jackie wore. Madeline and her team really went above and beyond, and you don't usually see that in period pieces. However, I feel like lately period films are trying to be more historically accurate with their costumes, since more and more people are becoming privy to dress history in recent years. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. I will see you next week with my Jackie Kennedy reconstruction. Have a great week otherwise. Bye.